Good evening, everyone, and Mingalava, and good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Last week, we have successfully completed the D1 workshop for research writing, and Siamadi Dr. Kingi has shared a lot of new insights into the general principles about research writings, and also she has shared how to write the literature reviews. So this week, she will bring up a lot of new insights into how to conduct your research in your professional field. So I think you all can learn a lot of new insight and important information from Siamaji. I would like to hand over to you, Siamaji. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Saya. Yes. Okay. Okay. Good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, or good morning. Wherever you are. Okay. Now, please let me continue with whatever we did last week. Okay. Last week, you may notice that I share with you something about, as you can say, research writing in the sense that, in terms of chapter structure, right? How we can craft the chapter, all right? In terms of introduction and body and conclusion, right? While introduction introduces, right? Or you can say what the chapter is about when linking to the research question or research topic of your research topic, okay? And providing background and also the outline of the chapter itself. That is the function of the introduction of each and every chapter. And whatever we state, right, in the introduction is again elaborated in the body of the chapter, right? We can use heading and subheadings, okay, depending on how you're going to organize your body, okay? Again, conclusion summarizes the main point of what you have stated in the body of the chapter, right? And conclusion is well aligned with introduction. You see, introduction state the main idea, right? The main idea or the main message, right? In the introduction, and conclusion summarizes the main idea. Then another important function is to link it to the next chapter, right? So I think that is what how the chapter looks like, right? Now, then after that, what I share with you is how to conduct the literature review. First of all, we talk about what literature review is, right? You may remember that I would just like to summarize what we have done so far. Literature review, right, in fact, looks at what has been done. What has been done in the area of your topics and what has not been done. Okay? But showing what has been done and what has not been done in the area also indicate your understanding of, you can say, your topic itself. Okay? Another one is by evaluating and analyzing the past study related to your research, it also highlights the gap in the literature, research niche. And then after that, what you need to do is you need to show that your research is going to occupy that gap, fill that gap, right? Hence, highlighting the significance of your research, okay? But anyway, that is the purpose and function of the literature review itself. But after that, we look at how we can conduct the literature review. Conducting means looking for the literature, right? So in that case, but the thing here is that reading through all the article is quite tiring. So what I started with, do you still remember? Right? Whenever we look at any research article, or you can say research report, the first thing you need to look at, don't just go according to the order. Do you remember what you need to do? First thing, look at the title. If the title is relevant, if the title is well written and it shows the relevance, then you can continue looking at the abstract. Is that clear? But if the title is not relevant, then I'm not saying you should discard it, because sometimes some of the article, the title may not be well written. So even if it may be relevant, if it's not clear in the first glance, right? But still, whatever you need to do, you need to gather everything and save it. Okay, whatever you have. Later, it may be useful. We will never know. Okay. Then after that, if the title is relevant, we're going to look at the abstract. Because abstract is the miniature of any research article or even the bigger research dissertation. So in that case, normally the abstract will include what the research is about and what is the methodology, data collection, methods of data collection and data analysis, and most important finding, because everything is there, except that it is very concise form of your article. That's why when you look at it, when you read it, if it is relevant to your research, then you can choose, you can continue looking at it. Because actually in some cases, again, some abstract may not be well written again, and it's very general. You can't get, you can say, accurate finding or something like that. It's very general and very vague, but you still feel that it seems to be relevant. The third thing you can look at is the introduction. Okay, this is what I said before. In the introduction, again, is the miniature of the, you can say, your research dissertation or article 2. Okay, but the thing here is that it is longer version of the abstract. So you can look at it. Let's say if you find that it's relevant through the introduction and you would like to know more detail about it, what you need to look at, okay, Tse, could you please share the slides, starting from that slide.
Literature review, right, Chair?
Yes, literature review. I think slide number 22, if I were not mistaken. No. No, move. 21. No. Okay, here. Okay. After looking at introduction, if you still feel that it is relevant, look at findings and conclusion, because this is what you need to look at in order for you to be able to write a review. Okay. Now, then after that, you can look at the methodology. Only finally, you will look at literature review, because what is more important is I do not mean that literature review is not important, but the thing is that the other information are really important for you to be able to write, you can say, literature review, but the literature review is good as well, because through the literature review, you can get more. You can say, you can get more, you can say, previous study related to your research. Okay, the next slide, please. Okay, now here, this is very important tips. Whenever you go through your literature review search, keep a record of your searches, because it often happen that we will have some difficult in that sense. Some of the questions that you raise, what is the difficulty that I have during my research? Okay, now I will just share my, you can say, difficulties when I go through each and every section. Okay, now keep a record of your searches, mean, even though in my case, when I was doing my PhD, even though I keep a record of my searches, what is really happening is that right? There are some studies, right, available only online. And when I look for it again, even though I keep a record and I have a separate folder for each literature, what is really happening is sometimes it seems I misplaced it, or maybe I did not organize it well. So I would like to look at the original article again, to make sure I have key in the reference list correctly. Okay. That's why what happened was that sometimes these articles are not available anymore. That's why I think that is one problem that we may have. That's why keep a record of your searches. Now, another one here is that sometimes, even though yesterday I told you that, hello, can you hear me well?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Now, what is really happening, even though I would tell you that once you are right, once you have already identified your research topic and everything, from that you identify, you just create keywords, right? Then using these keywords, you can look for the previous study, relevant previous studies. What is really happening is that sometimes you will find it quite difficult to find relevant, as you can say, research study. That's why one specific tip is to look at the reference section of each article. The articles you find it relevant to your topic. Now, if you look at that reference section, if the same name appears in several different articles, this can be the authority in your area of interest. Okay? What you need to do, read their works. Why? This will help you some understanding of the concept in question. Whenever we carry our research, even though you're interested in this and then you know something about it or whatever, but the only issue is that sometimes it's really difficult for you to understand the concept that you're looking at. So I think the more you can read the works of the author, the better for you. Okay. Now, here, another tip that I can give you. Okay. First thing is look for the authority in the reference section of the articles, okay? If the same name appear, it is the authority. Read their work. Okay, another one is start with articles which contain reviews, definition, explain, debate, history of topic, etc. That is the literature review paper. I will share with you in 2000, I couldn't remember, 2014, because actually our universities in 2012, 13, our university started blended learning. We went through the training and everything. What happened was that this is where I would like to share, because I asked around and collect data slowly. And what happened is that I would like to present a paper. My paper is on blended learning. And what happened was that blended learning at that time was a bit new. So when I look for the um, body of knowledge. One such thing is, definition of blended learning, etc., or whatever, right? From the, you can say UNICEF or UNESCO, something like that. And this, and suddenly, because I would like to look at the faculty attitudes of the introduction or implementation of blended learning. Okay, so I think what happened is that I happened to find this article, The Literature Landscape of Blended Learning in Higher Education, the need for better understanding of academic blended practice, okay? It seems like it's a gold mine for me, okay? Because you can see the historical development of blended learning in higher education. So I think that, using this literature review article, oh, I made it to the, I managed to make a paper and my paper was selected and it is also published as well. Okay, so I think that is my own experience. Okay, now the next one. Now, what to look for, right? I told you starting with title and after the abstract introduction and method, and then after that findings and conclusion, only after the methodology, only after the literature review. Okay, what to look for? Because sometimes you have already experienced, some of you may have already experienced, after reading the whole article, after reading that, you seem to understand it, but at the end of the day, you forget everything. So I've got to look for. What are the research questions asked in these papers? That is the first question. The second one, what are major theories and theorists? What theoretical frameworks are used? What methodologies or methods are used? And what results are reported? What are the suggested areas for future research? That means recommendation. What are the implications for practice and what conclusions are made? Okay, these are what you need to look for. The next slide, please. Okay, now sometimes you may think that, okay, right? You may think that, oh, we are new to research. And how can we evaluate or criticize or analyze, those people's paper? You just need to look at it, whether you need to look at the author's credentials, and you need to look at whether the arguments put forward by the writer are supported by evidence. If they are not supported by evidence, then, another one, when you look at the methodology, you need to look at whether appropriate techniques of data collection and analysis is used, or these, data collection and data analysis methods or technique are relevant to the research problem. Whether, they have the appropriate sample size. What about their interpretation, right? Are their interpretation reporting effective? Okay, that is what we need to look at in methodology. In terms of, this writer standing, whether the author's perspective is even-handed or biased. Okay, now here in this case, even though I would like to give you an example, but that example is is given in the issues and applying link. If it's really, really biased and too obvious, okay? And whereas the other, you can say, author or the researcher is even-ended. When you compare these papers, you can see very clearly, even though both of them are really well-known, you can say, researchers in that field. Okay, that's why I think that is one thing. Another one is when we are looking, looking at the presentation of the data analysis and data interpretation. Sometimes it happens that, especially in the quantitative research, right, they would like to show that the hypothesis is correct. That's why in some cases they do not consider contrary data, right? Or they might ignore the pertinent information just to prove the hypothesis. It happened then, it's not objective. Okay. Now another one here is persuasiveness. Now here in this case, which thesis statement of the author most convincing and which less convincing? Now in terms of value, because actually at the end of the day, the writer is, or the researcher is argue against or for for the debate. That's why whether the writer make this convincing arguments and conclusion, or does that research significantly contribute to an understanding of the subject? Okay, the next slide. Okay, as I mentioned to you, that is the kind of doubt that we have. But who am I to be critical of all these experts? Okay, now when we evaluate the data, right, question the definition. Are they useful or adequate? It always happens that there's so many definitions given by different researchers. What you need to do is, even if you give the historical development or definitions over time, what you need to do is, are you going to use the definition? If you use them, okay, now, in this case, whatever definition that the respective researcher is using, you need to question it. Are they useful for the topic? Are they adequate for the, you can say, topic? Scrutinize the assumption. Are they unexplained phenomena? Are the studies well conducted? Are the inconsistency in results? How can you do better? Okay. The next slide, please. Okay. Has the purpose of the paper been achieved? What contribution does the paper make to the field? Is the treatment of the subject matter objective or at least balanced in describing all sides of a debate? Are there facts and evidence that have been omitted? And then in that case, it is, what kind of data, if any, are used to support the author's thesis statement? Can the same data be interpreted to explain alternate outcomes? Is the writing style clear and effective? Does the paper raise important or provocative issues or topic for discussion? Does the paper bring attention to the need for further research? What has been left out? Support your evaluation with evidence from the text. And when possible, state the quality in relation to other scholarly sources. But in the beginning, saying is very easy, but in the beginning, it might be really difficult. But you will learn it. Okay, next slide, please. Now, how do we do that? You give a new interpretation of old material or combine new with old interpretations. For example, when we talk about trace the intellectual progression of the field, including major debate, depending on the situation, evaluate the sources and advise the reader on the most pertinent or relevant research, or identifying where gaps exist in how a problem has been researched to date, usually in the conclusion of literature review. Now here, when I said, right, you need to keep a record of all your searches. This is how you can do that. You can use Microsoft Word. No, don't move it yet. Okay, now you can use the literature review matrix by using Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel. I would suggest you please use Microsoft Excel. Okay, now what you can see here, author and year, theoretical concept or conceptual framework, research question or hypothesis. When you are reading, you use this Microsoft Excel sheet to key in whenever you read. You read and write at the same time, okay? When you are putting in, maybe it's all the bullet point, we will never know. Now, try it out, okay? Methodology, findings, conclusion, future result, practical implications, okay? When you put that down here, now if you are putting that in, that's why if you have already read 10 articles, everything is recorded here, okay? Everything is recorded here. So that what can you do is just by using these GIFs, when you are writing the literature review, then you can prevent yourself from, you can say, plagiarism. Because you are going to read these, you're going to look at these and you're going to write. Okay, how are we going to do that? Now, the next slide, please. This is the sample of the literature review matrix. Okay, so in that case, look at it here. Okay, everything is here just by looking at it. And if you are using you can say Microsoft Excel, life is a lot easier for you. For example, okay, if you would like to choose the same theoretical or conceptual framework used by different researchers, you pick and choose theoretical and conceptual framework, okay? Then after that, you move around, and so that, comparing and contrasting is easier, okay? I'm just explaining to you for the practical implications, okay? This is still, you can say, literature search, and now how you are going to keep the record of your searches, okay? Now the next slide, please. Now, when we are using this, you can say when we are keeping the record of the literature search, okay? Now, we can also use the annotated bibliography of what you have read, because you have already recorded in the Microsoft Excel of the literature matrix. Now, what you are doing is you can write the annotated bibliography of what you have read. Okay, now look at it here. In terms of citation, you use in APA format. Okay, your annotated bibliography would be starting with summary. Okay, within 2 to 4 sentences, what are the main arguments? What is the point of information source? What topics are discussed? Okay, the second part is evaluation. Okay, within 1 or 2 sentences, how does it compare with other sources in your bibliography? Is this information reliable? Is current? Okay. Is the author credible? Is the source objective or biased? Okay. After evaluation, then reflection. Okay. Now, within 1 to 2 sentences, was this source helpful to you? How can you use the source for your research? Has it changed how you think about your research topic? In some cases, the first, I think you can say, impression of our research may be A, but when we are reading more and more relevant literature, right? Maybe our, you can say, assumption or presumption about the topic may change. So I think about it whether it has changed how you think about your research topic. Okay, the next slide, please. Now, here, this is the example of annotated bibliography. Right, the first line is the, as you can say, entry. This is the reference. Then after that, the first sentence gave the overview. Okay, what is it about? And now everything is there. It's very short, but at the same time, it will be a record for you. When you are writing the literature review, life will be a lot easier, right? For me, I wrote longer than this a bit because I would like to understand everything as well. For the first time when I did my research, then that is a lot longer. But yeah, still, it's very, very useful. The next slide, please. Okay, now here in this case, now as I have already told you, right, you need to keep the record of your literature searches by using the, you can say, Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel literature review matrix, and also compile the annotated bibliography of each article, each research work that you have read, so that you have already started writing. Okay, now to avoid plagiarism, cite research related to your work. Okay, this is very important, right? There are altogether 4 widely used referencing system or style. One is the MLA system, Modern Languages Association. The second one is the APA, American Psychological Association system, the Harvard system, and the MHRA, Modern Humanity Research Association system. For me, I'm more familiar with APA and Harvard referencing. So in that case, in most cases, more publishing journals or whatever, they use APA referencing style, okay? But some, and Harvard referencing is also common as well. That's why make sure you make yourself familiar with the referencing system that your institution or your article, your journal would choose. Okay, now there are 2 ways to avoid plagiarism. One is in-text citation. The short citations you include in the written text that help a reader understand which sources you are quoting or referring to your writing. And down there, I have already given you an example. Now, another one is reference list at the end of your work. You must remember that all documents cited in your work must be arranged in a single alphabetical list by the surname of the first author of each work. Sometimes, as I mentioned to you, because you can look at the review, you can say articles, review articles. No, please. No. Review article by looking at you can find the authority, right? And you can read the works of that authority. That's why in some cases, it may happen that you may have multiple articles by the same author. or the authors. Then in such a case, list the entries in chronological order from the earliest to the most recent. Okay, now it's a quiz time. Next slide, please.
Chair, do you want me to
Let
run
me-
this?
Yes. The one that I gave you
Yes,
for this slide last week.
yes, Chair.
Okay, I think we just give about 1 minute. Will that be okay with that?
I have recorded, Chair.
Okay.
Chair, 1 minute is over, but still 46% of the participants have answered. Should I end this?
I just about 30 seconds. I think time's up, right? 2 minutes, right?
Yes, Chair. I will share the results.
Okay. Yes, sure. The time is really tight for us. That's why I'm so sorry I cannot give a lot of time for the quizzes. Okay. Okay, let's look at it here. Okay, now when you look at this, writing a literature review, okay, this is the part that I think we have problems. Okay, now if you look at it here, everyone think, oh, okay, writing should not be so hard. Everything I want to say is in my heart. I just have to transfer it from my brain to this computer. But the problem is, no, it is a no, no, no. So that is exactly the reason why, right? While keeping the record using Microsoft Excel literature matrix, you can also key in annotated bibliography that will help you speed up writing your literature review. Okay, now let's look at it here. Question to ask before and after you write your literature. Before you write and after you write. Do I have a specific thesis, problem, or research question that my literature review helps you define? Okay. Now, what is the scope of my literature review? What types of publication am I using? Okay. Have I found enough relevant information? What limitation exists in my information gathering? Okay. If there is limitation, then state it very clearly. Is there a specific relationship between the literature I have chosen to review and the problem I have formulated? Okay. Sorry, just Previous slide. Have I critically analyzed the literature that I use? And the next slide. Is it important here in this case, right? How significant of language and literature review? It is important to inform your readers where you stand on relevant debates on your topic or issue. While you are reporting other people's research, you also need to state very, very clearly where you stand on relevant debates on your topic or issue. It is your job to lead readers to the meanings and conclusions that you want them to make. That's why your language must be explicit about how the studies that you cite are connected to each other and are relevant for your own research, and how the ideas introduced are relevant for developing your argument. Now, your language must clearly indicate your position and strengthen your voice in relation to others. What does it mean? You need to make your voice heard using your language. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. Here, okay, no, previous slide. Right, how do you do that? The first one is using reporting verb. You can show other people's standpoint, but critically and analytically. The next slide, please. Okay, when you look at it here, in the first column, all are the reporting verb of the descriptive reporting verb. Another one is analytical phrases, and another one is evaluative phrases. That's why what you need to do is you can't just use the descriptive reporting verb. You need to use, right, analytical and evaluative reporting verb as well. I'm not going to explain to you each and every verb because you can always look at these, because we are going to send the training materials. I think this have already been sent to everyone, except for those whose email is not correct, or or the junk, and those email landed in the junk mail. Okay, now here in this case, these are the author's argument, right? Author's emphasis, reference to other authors, author's omission, author's admission. Okay, right. If you look at these different verbs, then you can always you can say refer to when you are writing it, because you just write down whatever you have in mind and you proofread them, and you can change the verb accordingly. Okay, the next slide, please. Now, here, this is example. Distinguishing your idea to make your voice heard, right? Make clear whether the idea being discussed belongs to you or another, or readers can become confused and miss your great insight. Now, if you look at it here, X's critique of truth is based on his analysis or discursive procedure. The relation between truth and power is seen by X as one between truth and discursive practice. Now, the previous one is other people's idea. The last sentence in blue, this suggests that this is your idea. Truth is not a stable and independent entity. Based on what people said, right? This is your voice, okay? This suggests that, okay? I think our team also sent out to you guys the reporting, but they're altogether 3 different documents that you're going to receive. We have a lot of example of the use of the reporting verb and the structure in which you can frame them. Okay, please, later you can have a look at it, because it's not possible for us to go through everything in detail within the you can say 4 Saturdays. Now, use of tenses in literature review. Okay, what we can use is the present simple, past simple, and present perfect. Okay, let's look at it here. Now, the first thing here is that, right, use of tenses, present simple, right? Whenever you would like to indicate a generalization, especially in overviews or statement or main point, etc., or a generally accepted scientific fact, we will use simple present tense. Okay. Now, another one is if it is statement, statement made by you as a writer as well. Okay, you can see in the previous example, this suggests that, right? It shows that it's your voice. Now, a statement reporting the position of a writer and you support or lack of your support or lack of support for this position. Now, therefore, the sequential approach is impractical in the real world where projects are typically large and the activities from one stage may be carried out in parallel with the activities. This one, when you use the present simple tense, it also shows that this is your it show your support. Now, let's move that to do. Now, another one is past tense. Describe the contents, finding, or conclusion of past research. Okay, it means that whenever you would like to indicate the individual research, when describing the content, finding, or conclusion of past research, you use past simple tense. It emphasizes the completed nature of the past activity. It is often referred to as the reporting tense and is traditionally used by scholars to report all past findings, including even very current research in some cases. Okay. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. Now, here we need to be very careful. Present perfect tense. It indicates that research in the area is still continuing or that the research has immediate relevance today. For example, several researchers have studied distributed database design. Okay, Frickle has illustrated that black Lego shows 3. Here in this case, because even though it is past research, it has some relevance, immediate relevance to your research or today. We can still use present perfect. Okay. Now, another one is generalization about past literature. Whenever you would like to provide the overview of the literature itself, we use present perfect tense. Whether it's active or passive, software has been tested manually for most of the last 4 decades. Okay. Now, another one is present a view using an information prominent citation. For example, the services that has been identified for the future VISDN include. Okay. In such a case, we have that use of present perfect. Okay. Now, chapter structure. Let's look at it here because it's about writing. As I mentioned to you, start with introduction, followed by body and conclusion. Now, in the introduction, you define your topic and scope and provide reason for choice. Please remember, let me remind it to you again, research is making choices, right? But you must remember that whenever you make choices, then you need to explain, justify why you make such choices and not the others, okay? So in that case, you need to define your topic and scope of your literature review, what you include and what you do not include, and provide reason for your choice, okay? Another one is provide an appropriate context for reviewing literature, overall trend, gaps, and things that emerge. That is in the introduction, because this is the key message. Okay. Now, as I mentioned to you, you still remember any introduction will, right? When you need to, as you can see, relate it to your research topic or research question. For example, this research trying to answer the following question. Okay, such and such, then why, what this, and then you mention the purpose of your, you can say chapter, right? Something like that. Now, body, discuss your literature in relation to your research topic. Here you can have the headings and subheading. Okay, please remember, people tend to use subheading level 1, level 2, level 3. Okay, no more than level 3, please. Okay, that's why I think we need to be very, very careful. Now, lastly, conclusion, right? Please remember, whenever you write any chapter, there must be the introduction and conclusion must be well aligned. Okay, now here in this case, in the introduction, you mention the scope of your literature review, provide reason for your choice, right? And you provide the appropriate context for reviewing the literature. Now here you summarize the major contribution of the previous research and evaluate the current situation. In what sense? You may need to identify flaws in methodology of the previous researchers or gaps or contradiction in research, areas for further studies, and link your research to existing knowledge. You just identify gap, and I'm going to take that, fill that gap. Okay. Now let's look at it here. Let's talk about introduction. As I mentioned to you, purpose of the literature review include the key message and outline of the chapter itself. Now here, let's look at the example. Okay. This chapter reviews some of this and that. Okay. Now, if you look at it here, the sentences in red show the purpose of this chapter. The aim of the chapter is to define the kinds of intervention that will make the most beneficial impact. What is the key message? Answers to these questions are found in accounts of both cause and action. Okay, that's why the features of cause and action identified here form the basis of evaluation of the case study X in chapters 3 and 4. Okay, so in a way, now let's look at it here, another one. Okay, background, right? And the key message here. I'm not going to read it out. You just read them out. Okay, now here, if you look at it here, the first paragraph, okay, an exhaustive review of the literature is thus beyond the scope of this work, right? Here is the limitation of this literature review. The aim of this chapter is to provide through selective reference to some of the literature, a clear understanding of the different microbiological, chemical, and physical processes that occur within trickling filters. That is the aim or purpose of the chapter. And after that, this is the next sentence in green, right, indicate the key message. And the last paragraph shows the outline of the chapter very clearly. Okay, with that, the reader will know what they can expect to see in the following sections. Okay. The next slide. Okay, now here are the expressions used in outlining the chapter. Okay, I would just like you to read by yourself. The next slide. Okay, now here in this case, after writing the introduction, the chart lists the question that you can ask yourself. Do I state my thesis, problem, or research question clearly? Because just still remember, I told you, whenever in the introduction would normally link your research question or research problem or the next slide. Okay, now in the body of the, as you can say, literature review, you have an argument about the strengths and weaknesses of existing research. And you need to indicate how your research fits within the literature and the nature of your contribution to furthering knowledge. That is the main purpose. Okay, now let's look at it here. How are we going to structure the body? Now, normally it is like this. A literature review often moves broadly from what is well known in the field and narrowed down to what is less well known, which is where your research gap or issue is located. Okay, now your literature review may draw on different bodies of literature and show how they are relevant and are connected. You may remember that, as you can say, your literature review is not the kind of pile-up of unconnected coded ones. They should be relevant and they should be connected. Okay. Now, here in this case, now, as I mentioned to you, the body of the literature review section can be divided into headings and subheading. Now, in this case, major sections according to your organization, you need to create major section according to your organization strategy, and other possible section necessary for contextualization of your research. For example, when I was writing down, as you can say, yeah, right, when I put down, let's say, literature review for this faculty attitude towards blended learning, and then we'll start with what we mean by blended learning, definition by different people. But what I mean by blended learning in my study, finally, I narrow it down to my definition. After that, right? After that, what I did was I came up with these sections or subsection according to, okay, my topic, and I narrow it down until I reach the research about faculty attitudes about any kind of, you can say, new strategy in education, something like that. Okay, so in this case, depending on, I cannot say how you can organize your own research. It depends on what you have found out and how you are going to arrange what are the emerging themes in your literature search itself. Okay, now when we are organizing the literature review, one is chronology of events, another one is in terms of methodology, another one is the conceptual categories. Chronology of events means sometimes in this case, when I was writing about my master thesis, for example, contrastive analysis and error analysis, for example, right? In that case, contrastive analysis is outdated one, but I still would like to have a literature review on contrastive analysis. That's why what I did was historical development of the contrastive analysis. That's why hence that part I arrange it chronologically. Okay, and after that, right, within that one literature review, I mix and match. Okay, I mix and match methodology and thematic, not the methodology itself, methodology a little bit, because before people start with the contrastive analysis, after the error analysis, I did the other way around. But the thing is, it's CA is not the main, you can say, method, but EA is the main method, which is supported by CA. Okay, now another one is when I look at the error analysis and contrastive analysis, I also use the conceptual organization. That's why here, question that you can raise in order for you to arrange, right, organize your literature review. Which bodies of literature have the broadest or most narrow scope? What does it mean? The broadest one may come first and the most narrow one may come last. Okay, that is why you need to know which bodies of literature are most commonly used in the field. Okay, which concepts are most widely agreed upon. Okay, and what are the strengths? Because as if agreed upon, then you just list them so they're easier. What are the strengths and weaknesses of the commonly used literature? And which of those does my study build on? Okay, which one are you going to choose? Let's say even if you choose one definition, not the others, you also need to give the, you can say, justification. Okay, you need to justify why you choose that one, not others. What is the less well-known literature that my study relates to? Okay, why you need to know less well-known literature? It shows that not enough has been done. Okay, now are there studies or aspects of literature that are minor or tangential within the fields or but are important to my study? Okay, asking that question, you can arrange that. How can I convince my reader that this is a what, how, why area to investigate? Through the literature review, you can state that my study is a what, why area to investigate by pointing up, for example, little research has been done, something like that. If drawing on literature from different fields, how are they connected? Because education, for example, language research, right? Teaching, right? Language research, it comes from different fields, psychology, etc. So many, okay? Why am I connecting them? What are the studies, sorry, not yet. What are the studies that are the closest to mine? What are the strengths and weaknesses of these studies? Because this is where you need to concentrate and you need to highlight strengths and weaknesses. What are the common themes in literature? Can I sequence them from the most common themes down to the things that are closely connected to my study? Okay, these are what you need to watch out for so that you can arrange, you can say you can organize your literature review according to the theme. Okay, the next slide, please. Okay, here, if you look at the connection between ideas and concept, for example, within the literature, there are a number of different explanatory models. Okay, now if you look at it here, right, it just go through chronologically because it would like to show the you can say historical development or different explanatory models. Okay. Okay, the next slide. Now, citing previous research, I have already told you previously about the use of in-text citation and reference list, right? Now, here in this case, now, how are we going to cite previous research, right? One is information prominent or author prominent. Another one is paraphrase or quotation. Let's look at it here. Now, here, if you look at, wait. Example, those example in green, okay, is it the author prominent or information prominent? You can see very clearly author comes last at the end of the sentence. That's why in that case, it is information prominent. But in the example in blue, it comes with first the sentence start with the author's name or the researcher name. Hence, it is the author prominent. That's why there are different ways that you use in in-text citation, whether you want to choose author prominent or you can say information prominent. Whenever you would like to show the historical development, I would choose the information prominent. But whenever you would like to give the evidence to support your argument, I will use, if the evidence is from the authority, I will use the author prominent, depending on your, as you can see, purpose of communication. Okay, next slide, please. Whether you are going to, as you can say, directly quote or paraphrase. Now, here in this case, whenever you directly quote the words of other researchers, make sure you integrate the quote properly. Okay, now, here in this case, what do we mean by paraphrase? You use your own words to indicate other researchers' idea. Okay, now, another one is, now, when do we use direct quotation? They are used to highlight author's definition of important terms and or assumption underlying the author. Because actually the thing here is sometimes, you know, the authority, right? For example, with regard to contrastive analysis, we cannot run away from quoting Goddard's definition. I just use the direct quotation because, you know, using our own words might not sufficiently, as you can say, present his own idea. That's why assumption underlying the author's choice of word, and particularly if it is the illustrated example of the author-specific view, which is difficult to paraphrase. Okay, when particularly, you know, when they are, when we would like to highlight particularly well-expressed opinion, revealing insight which a paraphrase could not capture, then in such a case, we use direct quotation. Okay, now here in this case, now one thing that I would like to just remind you, okay, when you directly quote only one or two lines, not more than that, but in some cases, if you do not have any choice, one paragraph or something like that, then in that case, you need to have the proper formatting. Okay, it's a different formatting, but I'm so sorry I do not include the, you can say, example here. But in most cases, if you have a choice, rather than using direct quote, except for in the given example, you are encouraged to paraphrase. Use direct quote sparingly, only when you don't have choice. Okay. Now, for the conclusion of the literature review, like what I said, a summary of your finding from the literature review. Explain what your analysis of the material lead you to conclude about the overall state of literature, what it provides and where it is lacking. Again, highlighting or identifying the gap. You can also provide suggestions for future research or explain how your future research, it is in your research proposal, or if it is your research report, how your research fill the gaps in the existing body of work on that topic. Okay. This is the sample conclusion. Let's look at it here. I'll read it out for you because the above discussion has highlighted the benefit of using a concordancer as a research tool for investigating and focusing on regular patterns of language use. It means the chapter reviews a range of previous applications that have used concordance data as stimuli for investigating student linguistic error. The technique proposed in this study, look at it, right? Extend on these previous applications by providing students two types of stimuli for focusing on linguistic form, right? In the previous sentences, it highlights what the previous research has done. Now, what they're going to do. Now, they're going to use the two stimuli, right? One is the negative evidence of extensive, right, corrective feedback, and number two, the positive evidence of concordance data which the student generate independently from a corpus of their own reformulated text. Okay, then here, do you still remember for every chapter, right? Every chapter, in every chapter, conclusion must summarize what has been indicated in the body, right? And then you can say highlight you can say important findings. And finally, what they do is to connect that chapter with the next chapter. You can see very clearly the next section elaborates further on the proposed technique and provide a detailed account of the method used to trial it. Okay. Now, language use in literature review. I think I mean that these are all these you can say example, right? General panorama of past to present literature. Okay, you can read them and later you can because I think all of you, most of you have already received these material last week. This is how you can review the past literature. Because there is one document that you might have already received. That is the academic phrasebook, where I think all these academic expression you can use in your report, not only literature review, for other section as well. Here, now critically evaluating literature, right? This is from, you can say, while providing sound reasons for the eruption of the conflict, okay, sorry. None of these arguments adequately engage the critical issue of the entrenched ethnic tension in the region, right? This is critically evaluating the literature. The advantage of X work is that these abbreviations are lodged within a perspective built up in the course of a survey of processes that shape the categorization of old age and single culture over a long period of time. X work is important for the purpose of this thesis, not only because of this. More importantly, the broad sweep of her study highlight the systematic change that underpins shifts in the experience of old age and public understanding of it. Okay, there's so many. That's why you can have a look at it, how you can see people critically evaluate the literature. You can see such clinical interpretation overlook the fact that, but make sure be polite. Whenever, even if you are highlighting the weaknesses, but you still need to state it politely. Okay. Next. Mentioning positive aspect of others' work. Okay. Next slide. Highlighting limitation of previous studies. Authors not mentioned by name. Because actually, I think it's a kind of overview of previous studies, right? These are examples in which authors are not mentioned by name. The next slide. These are examples of the previous studies whereby authors are not mentioned by name. Authors are mentioned by name. Sorry. Using the opinions of others to justify your criticism of some works, right? As mentioned by, right? As agreed by, right? Now here, this is stating your positioning, your research in your literature, right? This is an example. To begin with, this thesis questions the notion that third-generation theories of revolution are necessarily incompatible with some of the second-generation theories. Okay? This is a whole picture of the big picture of that research. This thesis will demonstrate that the purposive factors are essential components of any adequate understanding of the causes of socialist revolution. This thesis will present a more urban-centered model of modern revolution. Insufficient attention is paid to the mobilization and organization of contender. As the above critics suggest, this thesis will attempt to correct this deficiency through greater sensitivity to the politics of mass mobilization and the struggle between the polity and contenders. Okay, something like that. Okay, so I think what you need to do is you need to possess your, as you can say, you create, you just, in the overview, you just create the picture, all right, using that relevant study, and you possess your, as you can say, research into that literature. That is how you can do that. Okay. Now, question that you can raise, is on the conclusion. Does my conclusion summarize major contribution or significant studies and articles relevant to my thesis or research problem? Does my introduction and conclusion fit together is very important? Can I note any issues pertinent to future study? Okay, because you can also indicate the possible future study, right? Can I provide some insight into the relationship between the central topic of the literature review and large area of studies such as a discipline, profession, and ongoing contemporary social problem? Now here in this case, this is the possible contribution of your research. Okay, so in that case, for example, when I look at the Bazamali, for example, in my research, what I did was my research, right? Because it's in the Singapore context, and right. What I would say that, my research finding can contribute to the inside of, you can say, Singapore English, so that also it can contribute to the area of work and the literature of, as you can say, world English or something like that. That's why here in this case, or contact linguistics, right? We need to look at the larger area of studies such as discipline, profession, and ongoing contemporary social problem. Okay. Now, another one here is the checklist for the whole literature review is up. Whether we have the valid thesis based on the examined research, whether you have the clear thesis statement in the introduction, whether you have the definition on familiar terms, especially some of the terms or the concept that you use for your topic, then definitely there should be a definition. As I mentioned to you, if we have a variety of definitions, whether you're going to use one definition over the other for your study, and make sure you justify why you choose that definition, or you're going to create a new definition and explain why. Okay. Now another one is incorporation of background information to define the problem, beginning each entry in the review with complete bibliographical reference. Okay. list and description of hypothesis or thesis in each work review. Okay, another one, describing the outcome of the work or the research. But as I mentioned to you, when you have the literature matrix, then that work is done. Okay. Now, next one, developing and incorporating your own comments, including response to the research, similarity and differences among literature review, and reservation regarding author's method or conclusion. Okay. As I mentioned to you, avoiding overquoting. Use paraphrasing. Checking for grammar and punctuation errors. Correct citations of all references using Harvard or APA referencing or whatever referencing style that your publisher or your institution would like you to use. Now, one thing that I would like to highlight it to you, there are differences between references and bibliography. If you put a heading references, what does it mean? Whatever is cited in your write-up must be, you can say must be in the reference list. Okay, all entry in the list, also all entry in the reference list must be cited in your write-up. Okay, that's why. But if you are using bibliography, it means that it is a kind of reading list. That's why it doesn't matter whether you have the you have the entries which are not cited in your write-up, but make sure whatever you have cited in your write-up must include in both reference and bibliography session. Okay. Now, here in this case, now after you have done everything, now you read it again and ask yourself, does my review read well? How do you know? Whether there is connection among different paragraphs, right? Whether there is any kind of coherence. Now, because actually normally at the beginning of paragraph, do you have any strong umbrella sentences? Do you have any signposting word throughout the text? Right? Brief at intermediate points in the review to avoid, so to aid in understanding comparison analysis. Okay, sometimes after listing and summarizing everything, the reader might get lost. That's why you need to refer or mention again very briefly and continue so that they will not get lost. Now, what are the challenges that we have? Procrastination. It happened to us all the time. Another one is managing records. Okay. Now, in that case, right, if you are an academic that you would like to work on your research, you need to find time. Don't say that there is no time. If you say that 1 day per week, 8 hours, only 52 weeks, it means that you have 416 hours per year. Make it 1 day per week as research day, right? If it is only, okay, I can't do it the whole day. Morning 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. 7 days per week, 2 hours, 52 weeks, 728 hours per year. Okay, look at it. Okay, 7 days per week, 4 hours. Okay. What happened? Okay. Now here in this case, managing records, we have different one. This one is a bit outdated, but anyway, if your library has, normally, you can say that we have the EndNote features normally in the Microsoft Word, okay? Or else you can also download the software from the library. I think it's also, now another one is Mendeley, you can say, page, whereby whenever you, if you look for the sources there, what you can do is, it will record whatever you have viewed. So it has a record and there is no reason you lose them. Try that website. I have already used that and it is very useful. Okay, try that out. Okay, now this is the references. Here, I would like to, the next slide. Because some, I think, now, let me ask you, what have we learned? Think about it, right? We have learned about how we can conduct the literature review, let's say, and how we can record them using the literature review matrix and also using the annotated bibliography. Okay, and we have already learned, what literature review should look like, how should we write the introduction, how should we order the organize body of the literature review, and what should be included in the conclusion. Okay, and during this evaluation form, and there are some questions. Okay, the next slide, please, Tase. One question is, how can we recognize the predatory journals? Okay, now this is from the library of the University of Florida. Okay, now these are the general characteristics of these journals. Publisher aggressively, right, spam researcher. Okay, I received a lot of such email. Owner of publishing double as editor for all journals. Okay, no formal editorial or review board identified. It's quite normal. No academic information about editors nor evidence or expertise. That is definitely. Listing academic as member of editorial boards without their permission. Some academic even do not know about it. Now, no bona fide peer review or copy editing evidence. This is quite clear because when the researcher submit the manuscript today, within a week it was published. You won't believe it, okay? There are evidence that some of the researchers tried out and, they submitted one article with all the blenders, but it was accepted that it was published, okay? Now, quick acceptance of articles and publication within weeks. Now, within weeks, within a week. Author's fee hidden or inadequate, okay? What happened is that when they announce it, nothing. Only when they send you email, your paper has been accepted. This is when they would say this is, it costs this and this much, and it's not that cheap. Okay, notifying authors of article fee after papers are accepted. That is what journal title misleading and unrelated to true journal origin, or no clear subject focus for a publication is kind of general one. Mimicking the name or website of established journals. That is one thing. False impact factor cited. These are. Now, the next one is by Nanyang Technology University in Singapore. Okay. It's quite, you can see, let's look at primary goal to make money. They use the first word of predatory. Primary goal to make money. Reputation, questionable. Emails, flattering, persuasive, and often with typographical or grammatical errors. It's horrible. Okay. Databases, none of them index the journal title. Authors are targeted by the publisher's website rather than being aimed at the reader. Title suggests a vague or broad scope. And open access, but publisher retains copyright. Be careful. Right? If it's open access, the copyright should be retained by the writer. Revision, not required. Instant publication guarantee. Yes, that's why it is predatory. Okay. I hope that I answered some of the questions. Okay. Now we still have time. Okay. Should I continue with language? I'm not quite sure whether it is enough.
Well, I think it's 21 minutes past 8, and I think there are some participants who want to make comments and who want to ask questions. I think we can let them make comments and ask questions now.
Okay, okay.
But this is just my idea, because we may not be able to cover a session completely. If we have to leave it halfway, I think I'd rather have it the whole complete one the next day.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So, teachers,
Questions?
yeah, if you have questions, you can have your mic on and you can talk to us directly. And before you start asking the questions, I like to make you feel assured that we are sending the PowerPoints. We sent the PowerPoints and the documents from day one to you all who have completed the evaluation form with your email addresses. If you haven't received the emails, it could be either because the email have gone into the spam email, or it could be because when you wrote by mistake, you have done the spelling mistake in the email address. Please check again. But we have sent all the names that we have got to the addresses. That's for the day one. But even if you haven't got them, don't worry, we will resend them. Okay, because I can see many people are worrying over having the PowerPoints and they are not paying attention to the teacher. So maybe if I were the teacher, I would be asking questions to these students. All right, so it's time for us to do that. Okay, just a joke. I don't know whether it is a joke for many. So okay, question time, comments time. You can raise your hands and we can call out your names. And if you don't want to ask questions now, you can write your questions in the evaluation form.
Any questions? I'm happy to answer that. Okay, Sandy.
Teacher,
Yes.
My question might be a little bit broad. I'm interested in doing any courses related to research, but I really want to try by myself a research. I'm also have the I think not, it might not be true. I think that I have the interesting idea, but it is just I just want to know more about the study of the current study of the student. I mean the informal study. I just want to explore more about that one. If so, as a freelance researcher, I do not have any research background as well. So how should I start? I mean that maybe for the publication or maybe for the supervisor or something like that. For those things, how should I start? How should I find, or yeah, the thing I want to do it, I really want to do that research by myself. Where should I start? How should I start?
Okay. Now here in this case, thank you very much for your question. Okay. Now, one thing that if you want to have the supervisor, of course, you need to formally register into the postgraduate program. That is how you can get the supervisor. If you're just doing it independently, in such a case, then you may want to ask for the help of your former lecturer or something like that if they are interested in your research topic. That is one way that you can do. Okay. Now,
Yes.
another one is how can you start? How can you start? Okay. Now, in
Yes.
that case, as I mentioned to you, if you're really interested in that, now, if you want to self-study, then there are a lot of references available online. But
Yes.
still, I think sometimes, if you are not familiar with academic language, you will get lost,
Yes.
right? The wording and everything, that is one thing. But if you are persistent and right, then you can still do that. But it will take time. It will take time, right? Understanding about the methodology, research, about methodology. Okay.
Yes.
Now, another one is with regard to your research topic, as I mentioned to in my literature review session, right?
Yes.
Right. You have something that you are interested in. So I think about
Yes.
trying to identify the potential ideas. Okay.
Yes.
And then after that, let's say if you manage to get one topic, for example, right?
Yes.
And just try to get some keywords, right? One,
Yes.
2, 3 keywords, and use the keywords look for the resources online first if you do not have any access to the library.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then you need to read the relevant research and
Yes.
try to figure out. That is the first way to start. Okay.
Yes. Teacher, may I ask?
It's a long way. Yes.
May
Please.
I tell the background of my study as well? So I'm trying to do the research for my master degree. At that time in Myanmar, it is just the coursework only. I do not have any research experience, just a small assignment I have done to get my master degree. And then the foreign master degree as well, it is just a 1-year master program. That is why I was not allowed to do the research, but I took the research courses. It is just the research methodology course. When I studied in New Zealand, So,
Okay.
but what I would like to do is that I really want to do my own research. It is just as I do not have any research experience. Also, I think that it might be my first experience, and it will be the good way for my future professional journey as well. So this is the reason as well why I want to do my research. But like you said, it is when I do the literature review, it is really difficult for me because I cannot access any library. So some of the literature are not available online, free online. So it is as well the problem. So that is why, although I have that passion, I feel that I lost the way.
Okay. Now I think in the I think in my PowerPoint slides,
Yes.
because actually I include the list of the online sources where
Yes,
you
teacher.
can get the research, I mean, the relevant research articles or dissertation. I think teachers, could you please just I think it's slide number
Yes, Chair, I will
10
share.
or 11, I couldn't remember.
Oh, lit review.
Literature review.
Yes.
Lit review. Ma. Yes. Share the slides. Move down. Move down. Scroll down. No. Go down. Here. 17. Okay. Here,
Yes,
online
teacher.
search engine, right?
Yes, teacher.
On the next one. Here. One is from the NUS Scholar Bank.
Yes,
Okay.
teacher.
Don't need to be a postgraduate student, but I think you need to create some username and password, or you just key in. Okay, you can
Yes.
just another one is JSTOR, but the thing is, I'm not quite sure. Some of the articles maybe I think you can access free, but some may not. Okay, now these are the list of the, you can say, pages where you can get the resources. Okay.
Yes, teacher.
That's why I think just try them out first, okay?
Yes, teacher.
Another one is, the very first one is Google Scholar. As
Yes.
long as you have the account with the Google Scholar, you can also get, most articles,
Yes,
okay?
teacher.
Except for the articles which are new and which you not have access, okay?
Yes, teacher.
Okay,
Thank you,
I
teacher.
think we can stop. Okay. Now,
Thank you.
I
Thank you,
think
teacher
no,
Sunny.
Yes.
no,
Yeah.
Chit
No,
Wei.
we has raised her hand. Teacher, no, can you please ask your questions, teacher?
Hello, teacher. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I have two questions. The first question is not relevant to the lesson, but I'd like to ask the first question is that now I'm trying, like, when we are trying to apply for the master program, like they request a like research proposal, like only 2 pages, limited 2 pages. So I would like to know that how can we like outline our research proposal for our master program, which is apply for like scholarship program. So I would like to know the outline. I think it is different from like the normal and like academic research proposal paper. So I would like to know the outline of like, how to say, the research proposal for the scholarship, like applying in master program or something like that. And the second question is that like when I'm doing a like research like literature review, I like frequently say that some kind of like the article I couldn't find like the given like the reliable sources like Google Scholar or something like that. So I only search for Google, and then I saw kind of journals or like online database like resources. Then I try to use them. I would like to know, is that a good idea to use that kind of source even though they are not like listed as a like a reliable source or something like that? And then the next, that is all my question. Does I make clear myself?
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very
Yeah.
much for your question. The first one is research proposal for you to get admission to the master program, right? Normally, for such research proposal, whether it's just to get the admission into the program or to get the scholarship, normally they would give you the, you can say, format, because it's only 2 pages. Or do they give the word limit or 2 pages? Do they say
They just have
pages?
few pages, teacher.
A few pages. They do not.
Only 2 pages, teacher. Not like they are not limited word yet.
Okay. In that case, because there are only 2 pages just for the admission purpose, then as I mentioned to you, I think I think previously on the first day I might mention research proposal. Okay. Yes. When I talk about the research writing process, this is when I think I talk about the component of the research proposal. But here, the most important one, of course, is the, you can say, introduction, of course, right? Introduction where you give a general context, and then after that, you state your general context, and you state the purpose of your study. What is more important is the, I think, literature review, right? Literature review and the purpose of your research, okay, aims and objective of your research. Then after that, your research questions. If it is the quantitative one, you may want to include your hypothesis. Just to remember, when I talk about research question, problem statement as well, together with the working thesis. Your research question and your possible answer to your research questions. And what you need to also include is the methodology. Methodology does not need to be very detailed, but at least it must show what you know what you are doing. But it can be changed. But the thing is that at least your proposal need to show that you know about that topic and you have the idea about your methodology, and you have the skills and knowledge to be able to conduct the research. Plus, what is more important is the timeline of each stage of your research. That will convince the admission committee that you are able to conduct the research within the timeline. If your master by research, you can say, program is 2 years, for example, right? You need to, you can say, calculate the timeline in such a way that you include it, you can say, within 1.5 years. 6 months is about proofreading, editing, and something like that. Okay. Another one is about the reliable sources and getting the resources. I think I have already answered that question, because actually the thing here is now, when you are looking at, right, no, just tell me the second question. I think I cannot concentrate it that much, sorry.
Yes,
No,
teacher.
Chiwu.
So
Second
yes,
question.
yeah, the second question is that like when I like search for my like article for my research proposal, there are many reliable sources, but none of them can provide article for my research proposal. So I try to find in other like website or journals or online database. So is that a good idea? Or like another thing is that there are lots of AI tools that like how to say that promotes kind of literature review for like their related article. So should we
Mhm.
use that kind of like AI tool or something like that? Is that like reliable or is
Yes.
that like yeah. I want to
The
know.
one thing is that you can use AI to speed up your literature search, but be careful. Be careful in that sense that, you can use AI to look for your literature search, but the thing here is to help you with that, but don't use AI wording and copy and paste. That will be serious. Okay? Yes. Any questions? I mean, wait, wait. Have I answered your questions?
Thank you.
Yes,
teacher.
teacher. Yes, thank you, teacher.
Thank you. This time I like to read
Welcome.
out the questions from the chat box. And one teacher asked, the question is there not reputable journals that accept papers as quick as possible? So he or she wants to know about the reputable journals that accept papers for
There
publication,
are so
I assume.
okay. There are so many journals available and new journals coming up, especially within these 3 years where we have online learning and everything. So I think what is really happening is that um, those journals which are available only in hard copies are now also available in, available soft copy, available online as well. So I think, but the only thing is that it is not possible, I don't know now, it's not possible for us to publish within a short time. That is definitely. I think because when you submit the manuscript, right, they read it and they look at the keywords and everything, and the journal, the editors will contact the reviewers, okay? Reviewer without giving out your name or something like that. And the reviewer will be given a certain limit of time for them to be able to review and they return. Okay. Then after that, if they would like you to make changes or rewrite or something like that, okay. Sometimes, it took me, I think, for one journal article, how long? It took me about at least nearly 1 year to get it published. Okay, all the processes going on nearly 1 year. Okay, so I think if it is possible, because it's really difficult for, I think, a researcher from Myanmar to attend the international conferences, but still we can attend the conferences online these days because of thanks to all this pandemic and everything, right? If you can attend, if you have done any kind of research, and if you can just come up with a paper or the abstract, you can submit it to the international conference. If it's online, you don't have to travel. I think by attending the international conference, that is one way you can attract the publisher, because actually, to tell you the truth, there are not many researchers from Myanmar. That's why I think if you are a few of them in your area. In my case, I'm using I'm from my contact linguistic, for example. So for the Pidgin and Creole language studies, I'm invited to submit the abstract and things like that, articles. Okay. Another one is because I have written paper on nation building and education and things like that. in Malaysia context and Myanmar context as well. So whenever there's anything about Myanmar education system, then people might contact me. Okay. I think you need to make yourself visible. Okay. With your paper. We need to start from the international conference. Okay. Normally some of the conferences encourage the new researcher. Okay. And they normally would accept the manuscript of these new researcher. I think this is one way that you can try. I'm not quite sure whether I have answered the question satisfactorily.
Thank you. Thank you. A great question, a great answer. So one more question that I like to read out from the chat. I will read directly what is written here. Are we supposed to include the research methodology in details? I wonder what key points to include when the word count is limited. So the word count issue again here.
Okay, now, in what I didn't hear it well.
Yeah, so I will read it again. Are we supposed
Okay.
to include the research methodology in details? I wonder what key points to include when the word count is limited.
Okay, it depends. I think what I can tell you, because this answer will be this question will be answered in my next section where we talk about writing methodology and everything. Okay. Normally, I think it is in the next slide, in the next PowerPoint slide, I included everything. For example, depending on the number of word count, right? For the research methodology, still you need to include everything, but it depends on the word limit as well. So I think, let's say one of the researcher have a tip, give the tip that introduction should be 5 to 10% of the total word count. That is what they say. I might be wrong, but 30% on literature review, 25% on methodology, something like that. So I think look at the word limit, and you can come up with something. Okay. Now, what to include in the methodology, I will talk about it in the methodology session. Okay.
Thank you, teacher. So they are all the questions that I can see in the chat box. So if there are more questions that you would like to ask, you can raise your hands and ask the questions directly to the speaker. And so far, looking at the evaluation sheet, we have 120 names, addresses there. In fact, okay, we had 170 or so participants in the workshop. Now we have got 145. So if you still haven't fill in the evaluation form, please make sure that you fill it in with your names and email addresses and the correct spelling. Now we have got only 120 in the form so far. So it means last week, some people were saying that, okay, you didn't get the PowerPoint slides, so maybe you didn't get your name sent to us through the evaluation form. But we will wait until you have finished. So the recording will be uploaded on Myanmar TESOL YouTube. But we need some time. We need to do a bit of editing. Okay, we are just teachers like you. We work full time in the daytime, so we need some time to do the editing. So after we have done the editing, we are not the technician. We don't have the technical skills that much. But when we have done the editing, we will definitely upload the YouTube videos on the internet. That's one thing. And for the PowerPoint slides, we'll send them out to all when we have received your email addresses.